Nick, are we all set? Okay. Can I call the meeting to order? We all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first presentation this evening describing the authorization and approval of the transfer of up to $244,000 from the district's repair reserve fund to the district's general fund to pay for replacement and repair of the public address clock system at the Batavia High School and entry and classroom door hardware at Robert Morris, and award of contracts related thereto. Section 6D of the General Municipal Law. Mr. Scott Rosansky, Business Administrator.
Thank you. First of all, for this public hearing, we're, as Mr. Marucci indicated, we're looking to spend money from the repair reserve and to authorize the amendment of the budget later on if approved. First, there's two projects. There's the with the repair reserve is to pay for costs of repairs that do not recur annually, and it could be capital improvements or equipment. So the first item, our project, is the PA, public address, and clock system here at the high school. It's been rapidly failing for the last year or so, and so we've been looking at how we can resolve that situation. This PA system was installed in 2003. The system's used daily. The volume of the PA is okay, but the bells, the PA itself, and the clocks are all integrated into one system. And so as the clocks are affected at the high school, they do not track the appropriate time, and it's not in it's not in alignment with the satellite systems and stuff. So we're constantly making adjustments on a weekly basis. We lose about 4 to 5 minutes a week, and the bells aren't ringing as scheduled. They're inconsistent in variable times, and it's difficult to determine if a student's late or not, if the times aren't holding and such. The parts are no longer available, and we're unable to get repairs accomplished. So we're looking for a full replacement. We've spec'd this out. It's on New York State contract under state contract pricing from one of our vendors. There's no need for any professional fees, an architect or construction manager. We will not need SED approval. There's no building aid. It's a one-for-one replacement. It's not new installation. So it's pretty, it's an easy expense in terms of going ahead and proceeding with that. And there's no health and safety or code concerns. A week or so ago, when we were speccing this out after we got the quote, we didn't know if we were going to have any other legal fee, professional fees and such. The cost of this is $118,860, and that will be the total cost unless when they go through their project they find any like a change order or something like that, but it's not anticipated at this point in time. Robert Morris School, the cost again on New York State contract is $35,543. Since we began using Robert Morris in September of 2022, the building, as you know, was closed in July of 2012. We have currently met all safety and security measures to get Robert Morris up and functioning from the beginning of the school year in September. There's no significant classroom hardware, door hardware that was replaced and updated since July of 2012. And because Robert Morris was closed for students, we've had minimal maintenance on it. We are currently operating at Robert Morris as we did before our Smart Schools project about 4 or 5 years ago, So it's a manual process versus an automated process. To close doors in case of a lockdown. So the scope of the project is to have hydraulic closures on 22 classrooms. And this aligns with the other upgrades that we've done with the Smart School project about 4 or 5 years ago in the other buildings. We would also create a little man trap, and the electronic door locking equipment is needed to do this, where the current entry is in door entry number 2. This will provide additional increased security measures. We do currently secure the exterior of the building automatically. The man trap will further enhance any interior potential threats. I want to reiterate, the building is currently safe, and that this scope will further enhance safety, response time, and awareness, and to mitigate the possible breaching opportunities. Again, New York State contract, there's no professional fees for architect or construction manager. Our architect is reviewing the project a little more thoroughly, because it's not a one-for-one replacement like the box and the PA system. So we may need to get SED approval on this, but there will be no building aid. So this one may take a little bit more time if SED needs to get involved. But we know what the cost is, and again, barring any problems with the installation and the change order, it should only be $35,543. Why are we asking for $244? As I explained earlier, it's up to $244,000 because we don't. A week and a half ago, we didn't know if there were extra fees for professional services, and then as we get into the project, if there's anything that arises. So the 244 breaks down this way: high school, 118,860. Again, off New York State contract. Robert Moore security upgrades, 35,543. Again, off New York State contract. And if needed, 89,597. At this point in time, we do not anticipate that, but it allows us flexibility if we run into problems. If you recall, almost 2 years ago, when the middle school elevator went down, we had to come back to the board for additional funding because our initial quote was off. Now that's a little bit different situation because there was a lot of unknowns we couldn't see below. But again, when we had to post this, the legal requirements, we did not have all the answers to this, what the cost potentially could be. So bottom line is, we're asking for up to $244,000. The current capital repair reserve balance is $244,090.78, and this is after the domestic hot water tank replacement that we did this past summer, and that was $86,425. So the balance after this project will range from $90.78 minimum to $89,687.78, which is, we anticipate on being at the closer to the maximum than the minimum. And we will replenish the funds at year end if funds are available. Are there any questions?
I do. I have a question.
Sure.
So you're just saying that you want to use this 89,597 as sort of a cushion, so that if there are change orders, even though it's not required to have architect, construction manager, as you stated in the previous page, this is just a cushion?
Just a cushion. It was up to 244. We won't exceed the 244. We will only spend what we need to spend.
And I would like to know how does the project manager, whoever is running this project, how do they determine how much money is needed for change orders? Do they have any idea?
No, they don't. It's basically, we contract out with their company that's on state contract. And if there are any problems along the way, we will vet that out with our director of facilities and both campus and CPL. But they have agreed not to charge us fees.
So this 118,860, right now is their best guess estimate for this project.
Based on the specifications that we have provided the contractor off the New York State contract. That's the New York State contract price.
Okay.
So if we miss a clock or something, that could change that.
Okay.
That would be like a change order.
Okay.
But based on our scope that we provided them,
Yeah, you should know how many clocks are in these.
we should,
right?
but if there was a mistake.
Okay.
When you're talking about the hardware at Robert Morris, you're making a quote-unquote man trap at door two, what do you mean by that?
So, like, when you come into this entrance here, you come in the first door and it stops you, and then you have to, like, buzz in, or, you know, you just can't continue walking in.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Thank you, Scott. Okay. We're voting on this now, right? No?
Later on.
Close public hearing.
It's under new business later on.
Okay. Need a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Ms. Bennett?
Second.
Mr. Riegel?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Moving on. Any public to be heard?
No.
No? Okay. Now it's me. Good news. I like good news. We have a lot of good news, so I'm not going to read all the good news. It is posted on our website, so please take a look at it. From the high school, Natalie Keller. Elaine Gurrett is tutoring one of my students this year. This is the most engaged he has ever been. She has been so diligent in both working with the student and his family. She is a huge asset to our district, and she works behind the scenes. Batavia Middle School, Carrie Ann McBride. Although we have lost a phenomenal member of the MS Library team, Doreen Shorman transferred to JK, we have a superb new member. Please welcome Heather Licata. We are very excited to have her at BMS and look forward to all the exciting projects ahead of us. Let's see here. At JK, Melissa Calandra, 4th grade innovators would like to thank Extreme Streetwear and Mr. Paul Graziopline for creating videos to show a day in the life of a graphic designer. 4th graders use their own graphic design skills to create a 3D model of an Iroquois longhouse. One student's design from each class will be chosen for 3D printing. So many of the students are interested in pursuing a career in this field after having a hands-on experience in it. And then from Jackson Primary and Robert Morris, we've got the UPK team. Thank you so much to Charlie Voorhees for recreating our Thanksgiving placemats. This is an adorable tradition that we were able to keep doing solely because you put in the time and effort, and it was at the last minute. Thank you. You are noticed and appreciated. And like I said, there's a lot more good news, so please take a look at it. Now moving on, we have presentations. First up is our Batavia varsity softball trip proposal from Coach Jim Fazio.
Thank you for having us tonight. With me is one of my captains, Hannah Carney, JV coach Jamie Masters, and our booster club treasurer, Holly Carney. So I want to thank them for being with me tonight. I would like to start off by stating that the reason that we're here is to get approval for a softball spring training trip at Vero Beach, Florida at the Jackie Robinson Training Complex, April 1st through the 8th, 2023. In the past, we've had 2 spring training trips planned, but unfortunately, because of COVID, we had to postpone those. So we're hoping that this year we could finally get down there. And we have an exciting team. We went to the Class B finals last year, so we feel this is a great opportunity for us to get ready for the season at an earlier time, get outside in nice weather, and play some really good competition down there. The cost of each player is roughly $2,000, but we've been fundraising a lot throughout the last 3 years. We've got a good sum of money in our bank account, but with some other fundraising opportunities coming up, we hope to cover most of it, but some players' families may have to contribute some towards their trip. A typical day in Florida will consist of daily scrimmages, daily practices, 3 meals a day, and we're going to be staying right on the complex at Vero Beach. So, and Holly was going to talk more about our accommodations and things like that.
So Vero Beach, Jackie Robinson Training Complex in Vero Beach, Florida. It'll be April 1st through the 8th. We do plan on flying. We have those prices set out for us, broken down by players and coaches who will be joining us. The complex is historic Dodger Town, longtime spring training of the Dodgers. It is a secure facility, which is why we wanted to go with this one. There's not a lot of leaving, coming back. They will be safe in one area. It is approximately 38,600 square feet of indoor training plus the outdoor training. We will be staying right in the villas that are located on the facility. And then we have prices broken down per player, everything that we had already achieved through the years as far as fundraising. It came out to be about $1,200 per player, which we are still working on. I can tell you at this time, everybody is under $800. There's very few people who will be paying anything over maybe 3 or 4. We have some people who participate in fundraising and have absolutely nothing to pay for the trip. So, like I said, it's all an enclosed facility. Parents will have VIP passes that they can go and watch every practice, every scrimmage.
Can I ask why you're not taking a motor coach instead of flying, while you're flying instead of taking a motor coach?
Sure.
Like the other proposal is coming up?
Yeah, so with a larger number, the prices do go up as far as flying. We have a very small group. So our 12 players and our coaches is a small enough range to make it about $600 a flight. That is well under the amount of money that we would need to pay for a bus. The bus pricing is very expensive. So that keeps us down pretty low. So it's easier and cheaper for us to actually fly.
And do you have any players that can't afford to go?
No.
Not the moment.
Okay.
Does the booster program have extra funds if it comes to a situation like that?
So
Yes.
we actually do have $5,000 extra in the account at all times.
Okay. Is this varsity only or JV?
It's going to be varsity.
Varsity only?
Yes.
Okay.
So we run 12 players and 2 district paid coaches.
And then the 3 volunteer assistants, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
So
we have plenty
basically,
of chaperones.
five chaperones of 13 athletes.
Yes, and plenty of parents that are planning on going.
Okay.
Any other questions? Coach, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Need a motion?
So
Stephanie, second. Mr. Roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You
Thank you. Have fun.
got approved We just approved you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Is it okay if we leave right now?
Oh,
for
it
Florida?
absolutely is.
Before they change their mind.
Right. Thank you.
Good luck, Coach.
Good luck, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Batavia varsity baseball trip proposed by Coach Patrick.
Someone should have told me that first.
I am here to also get the approval to go to Florida for our preseason trip. We would be traveling by motor coach, leaving on March 31st, 4 p.m. from the high school, departing from Fort Pierce April 7th, roughly around 4 or 5 o'clock p.m., traveling back. We return to Batavia April 8th. Last year we did this, and it was a great experience for the kids. We enjoyed it. It gives us the ability to take our JV and varsity team down there. So we are staying in the same location. I want to say that this might be the 22nd or 23rd year that they've gone to Florida and stayed down there with Vinny Carlisi and Florida Sports, or Florida Gulf Coast Training Program. We're taking with us, Derek Bush is our new JV coach, so myself, Derek Bush, as 2 paid employees, Ronnie Kleinbeck and Scott Lazzaroni, so the 4 of us will take the kids down. We have games scheduled. We have an older JV team this year, so we actually have games scheduled. There's 11 or 12 contests down there that we'll have scheduled. Sometimes we'll have double headers down there. Practices, the facilities are great. Batting cages for all the kids. Breakfast and dinner is included for the kids, plus the trip, the hotel stay, all baseball activities. Our total price is about $1,250, $1,250 per kid. We have our golf tournament was successful this year. That has increased, so that'll help out the kids. We were awarded the McCarthy Memorial Foundation Scholarship, so we got $2,000 from that. Also, we have applied for Napoleon, and we are currently fundraising for the trip. So all kids have the ability to pay for their entire trip. Last year, I want to say that the most that a family did was in the $400 range with minimal fundraising. So,
James, practically speaking, why are you opting to take a bus instead of a plane?
Yeah, exactly. Why is it
So-
flying?
So for us, yep. So for us, roughly, if we take 15 to 19 players, the tickets actually increase. So the first 5 tickets that you buy are, $500 to $600. Then the next 6 or 7 that you buy are $700 or $800, and they continue to go up. So 15 tickets is roughly $650. We'd have to get about 17 or 18 tickets. So it's about $650 to $684 at that point in time that I got the quote from Southwest. Called Frontier. Frontier is another one that can do it, but they were around the same. If we get to the 30 ticket mark, we're around $1,017.93 per ticket. And then when we get down there, we have to rent vans because we are not staying on location. So our fields are about 6-7 minutes down the road. So we would need travel down there. So I called and I found out that each van, well, besides the fact that vans are very, very scarce, it's tough to find. So I reserved 3 vans at that point in time before the parent meeting so that we could find out what we wanted to do. So they're about $1,400 per van. So now it adds another $300 or $3,500-ish to the entire trip. So our cost got into the $1,600 range. So it was actually more. And then we have to have someone stay with the kids at the airport, travel 15 minutes, get the vans, get back to the airport, load them up, drive to our complex. So all said and done, I look back at the travel when I went with Coach Saunders, and it was roughly 15 and a half hours of travel, and we made it down there in 18 hours on the bus. Parents don't have to ride the bus, I do, so they should be comfortable flying or driving, and I'll sit in the front of the bus with my feet jackknifed in the corner.
And how well are the balances going for the students that are going? I mean, are you still anticipating that there's going to be maybe $300 or $400 that a student might owe?
So in January, I'll send out an email after this meeting, but in January, I'm going to expect a personal payment from each family of $300. Last year, we did 2 2 payments of $300. So the total was $600 that a parent paid or a family paid out of pocket. And then when we went through all the balances, we actually issued refunds back to people who fundraised more than what they paid personally.
I see.
So we'll probably do 300 this year with the increase in the golf tournament and a few private donations that we've received and our balance from last year. I feel comfortable saying that 300 potentially could be the most. But if they don't fundraise, you know, then obviously that number changes.
And do you have any students that are incapable of affording to go?
I thought that I might have a few last year, and out of the 4 or 5 kind of that I pinpointed that potentially would need help, fundraise the most. So I kind of have the same thought process with this year, and some of those people have reached out to ask for more tickets. We're doing a grill raffle, you know, so they've reached out for more tickets, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Coach, thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Regal?
Second.
Ms. Benedict?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Coach, have fun.
All right, thank you. Gonna go make Christmas cookies.
Grab the girls. Right?
This is awesome. Girls flag. Coach.
Jen's up.
Okay, next up is our
Mike, let me see it. Mike.
female flag football proposal for this spring. And we have AD Mike Bromley and 6 future flag football players.
We'll just try getting closer to it, should work now.
Hold on, Mike, it should hang inside the computer.
Oh, yeah, so put it on either.
Is it on? Green? Or actually,
Okay, just use the mouse. Yeah. Okay, so probably about 3 to 4 months ago, ladies, right, I started getting emails asking about flag football. And New York State has just offered that as an opportunity for females. So as I got those, I told them that eventually we would end up doing a presentation to see if that would be something that we could add. I can tell you that currently we have 28 sports in our district. We have 14 male sports. We have unified bowling, which is a male and female, sort of a co-ed sport. It's the only one we have. And we have 13 female offerings at this point. So with that being said, it would kind of bring us into balance if that was something that we chose to do. So a little bit about it. In 2022 was the first year flag football was sanctioned by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. Last year as well, there were 8 teams that piloted it in Section 5. You can see the schools from our league were Eastridge, Irondequoit, and Spencerport. So those schools all played this last year. So far, about 22 schools have indicated that they would like to try moving forward with flag football in the future. So
How did the 8 teams do?
what they did is they ended up playing like a Section 5 schedule, where they just played 4 or 5 games, and then they went against Section 6. And the Buffalo Bills were involved with it last year. So there was actually some money from the Buffalo Bills to start this. That money's not there this year, but it was there last year. They helped with uniforms, they let them go to the AdPro Training Center and did some of those things. So it was a Section 5 and 6 because there were so few schools.
Okay,
So I think it's going to be much, much bigger this year, and it's going to continue to grow.
okay. Sorry.
No problem. So a little bit about what it is. It's a 7-on-7 lineup. Okay, you can play on a regular field What we would do is use our turf, obviously, at Vandetta Stadium. We'd have to buy pelts. It's a youth-size football. So just some of the rules a little bit. The length of play is a 40-minute total game, 48 total. You get 2 24-minute half, 5-minute halftime. There's overtime, there's extra points that it talks about. It talks about all the game play. So obviously it's going to take a person that knows a little bit about football to coach that. So that would be something that we would have to look for, is a person that would like to coach. I can tell you in some districts, that has been the head football coach, and they've gone and coached in the spring. So I'm not sure what that looks like for our district, but I know there are some people that would be interested in coaching. Right now, what do we offer in the spring? We offer softball, which 3 levels, and we offer 3 levels of track and field. And I had 10 girls come to me from grades 9 through 12 and say that they are interested in this. If you could just briefly introduce yourself and what grade you're in.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Abby, I'm in 12th grade as well.
I'm Sydney, and I'm also in 12th grade. I'm Eliza, and I'm in 11th grade.
I'm Stacey, I'm also in 12th grade.
I'm Bella, and I'm in 9th grade.
So what do you want to just talk about? Why is this a good opportunity for you?
I've gone around and I've actually talked to a lot of girls in our school about the idea of flag football, and they were all very ecstatic about the idea. I think the flag football idea is like a new opportunity for a lot of new athletes who don't have the sport in the spring to come together and play a new game.
Okay. Anybody anything else?
I also agree that I feel like it is a great opportunity, and there are some girls that reached out to me also and saying that they would like to play flag football. They feel like it's another opportunity, another third sport that girls could do in the spring, and I feel like there's a higher percentage and that girls would want to play flag football.
Thank you.
How many girls do you need for a team?
So it's 7 on 7, so minimum 7, but that's probably not what you would want. I would say that we would need 12 to 15, maybe a little bit more, somewhere around that. And I don't think we would have a problem with that number. How can it work in Batavia? Obviously, there's always concerns when you add a sport, right? What does it do to the sports that you have? We know you just saw the softball presentation. They went to the sectional finals last year. They brought everybody back. You know, what does it look like for them? What does it look like for our track program? Right, we've had a very successful. They also won sectionals last year. Have a great program. Does it hurt those sports? And that's always a consideration when you add something about how that affects them. Now, I would have said probably 2 years ago, be less positive about this working. But now there's a thing called dual sport athletes. And probably most of you would probably do that. Track people would probably go and look out for the flag football, trying to do both of them. So what does dual participation mean? It means they pick a primary sport and they can't miss that sport, and the other one becomes the secondary sport for them. Talk to other districts, how did they make it work the first year? They had to do things a little bit different for flag football, so they weren't on the same practice times as your track and your softball. They moved it to later at night or earlier so that the students would be able to do both of those. So just thinking about what we could do here, we could potentially do late practices at the turf, so when you finished your other practice, we'd be able to do that. Potential Saturday contest. We don't play a lot of softball on Saturdays, and track and field, we do have some invitationals, try to work around that. What they would do is maybe 2 to 3 practices a week instead of the 5 or 6 that people normally do. Doesn't have to be this way, it was just my way of figuring out how to make it work the first year to figure out what that could look like. They play probably 8 games, and then I'm not sure what it would look like at sectional time. There may be a sectional championship this year because it is sanctioned once again by the New York State Public High School Athletic Association. So, I'm not sure about that yet. Okay, always, what is it going to cost us? What's that look like? Well, if we look up here for coaching stipends, just an estimate, what it would cost for a head coach and assistant, I think we would need 2 coaches. Probably need an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. I think 2 people, that's what other people did that I talked to that ran the program last year. So they had 2 coaches in the program. Uniforms. I estimated 30. I don't know how many we need, but somewhere around $60 a uniform for them to start that. 4 home games. It's ironic, it's going to be the same officials that they use in the fall for football, our traditional fall football. And so the contracted rate is $108 for that. It's already there because it is considered, football. We got the estimate 4 trips away. It's about $300 a trip. What's it cost for chaperones to run the video, board operator? So when I put it together, it was somewhere around $9,300, $9,400. I can cover some of that. We have not had a couple teams. Our modified wrestling team did not have sufficient numbers, so I have money in that budget as we move forward. And traditionally, we haven't, the other one we did not have was girls modified tennis. So with those 2 budgets, it could probably come pretty close to covering that. So it would not be asking for any additional money this year, because that is already in my budget. Okay, now the questions.
How many student girls, young women, sorry, do you anticipate to be dual sports athletes?
How about, just as an estimate, how many of you would be asking to dual sport?
Or other?
What would be your main sport?
Track.
Track?
Track for that.
So it's going to bring us challenges, right? So I think most of our athletes that are going to do this are going to probably be dual sport athletes. We will hopefully pick up people that, the idea, right, when you start something new, you want to pick up additional people that aren't currently involved in a sport. So it'd be interesting. If we start to, if you give the go-ahead to at least look at it further, then I will do a sign-up list here at the high school, and we can kind of figure that out before we move full ahead. But that's a great question.
How do the track coaches feel about that as far as like dual sports? What's their take on it?
I don't want to put words in their mouth. I don't believe they would be 100% supportive. You're asking people sometimes to do double practices, right? Potentially a conflict. So
Ladies are going to be exhausted.
Yeah, everybody's territorial, right?
Yeah.
You've built a program, you're proud of your program, and you want your program to do very, very well. So there's always, there's going to have to be some give if this is done. Yep.
So will that be communicated to coaches, like that, like not to put pressure on these kids?
Sure.
I feel like that's a lot of pressure.
Well, if they're going to, the way we've done dual sport is they're not going to miss track.
Right.
Because that is their primary, unless they chose football to be their primary, then they would miss that. So we've done that, and right now we have probably 6 or 7 kids that are dual sport athletes.
Really?
Yes, yep. So we have a couple basketball players that are doing track. Basketball's their number one that they don't miss, and they go to track when they can, and on weekends to compete, when there's not a conflict. So we have several. Yep.
So Mike, as far as the coaching, how does that compare to the other spring sports? We got down two
it's
for
pretty
this.
much- Spring sports are shorter season, so the pay is usually less for spring sports than it is a fall or winter. Winter's the longest, that's for our highest pay.
So compared to how many coaches do we have for, say, girls track or girls softball, boys track, boys baseball?
So for everybody, for each level, you have one in baseball and softball. You have the varsity, JV, and a modified.
Okay.
It's 3 coaches, 3 teams. Track, because of the numbers we have the largest track team maybe in Section 5. So we have about 8 coaches throughout those levels.
So I guess the reason I'm asking, we got 2 coaches for maybe an estimated 10 to 15 athletes for there.
Right.
Baseball, how's that compare to those teams with the number of girls we have or boys to coaches to athlete?
Right.
Just right now,
I can tell you every one of my
softball was
coaches-
here, we had one.
Every one of my coaches don't feel like there's enough of them and want an assistant coach.
Okay.
So, that's a common theme. Usually, and I put it with football so it would compare a little bit with what we do boys-wise. I don't know that one coach could coach offense, defense, and do all those things, as far as that goes. And this is all open, this is just thoughts,
So
right?
the boys' football team did have an offensive and a defensive coach.
Each level of football has 3. And it's a little bit, it's a contact sport, and that's one of the reasons that we have to, in hockey, we have an assistant with contact and lacrosse as well, because you want more coaches when there's more contact. Yep.
Is that cost, the coaching price, the dollar amount, is that based on, you mentioned like there might be just 2 to 3 practices?
Yes, that's why it's not as high as
by-
baseball and softball.
Okay.
I put it down a level because they're not going to be working as much to start with. Now, down the road, if it ends up changing, then there would have to be an adjustment.
Okay.
But I thought about
At the
that.
beginning,
Yep,
okay.
absolutely. And this isn't written in stone, this is all negotiable, it's just a thought, just throwing it out there the first time.
When would you need to know if the board were to take action on this, Mike, at some point?
So I guess
what do
tonight
we need
what
to
I
let
would like
Section 5 know?
is if you could just give me permission to maybe put some sign-up lists together and kind of figure out if there's an interest. And I would say probably, because it starts in March, maybe
So,
next board meeting,
A vote at the next board meeting, or
potentially.
February?
Does that make sense?
If it's going to start in March, we're going to want to talk, we're going to want to have this decided on in January. And you don't want to wait till February for this.
Do not.
January's a week. You're going to want to do this in January.
I agree.
And in my eyes, I don't know how everybody else feels, but get your sign-up list going and see what the potential is of female athletes that want to do this. And if we can get a large enough number, ladies, that's where you guys come in. Let's get this going. Let's get this, it's up to you guys to talk to your friends and say, hey, come sign up, let's make this work.
All right, so what Mike and I can do between now and then is get you some more information, and then we can have it on the agenda to discuss and possibly take action on in January.
In January.
Okay? If that's, I see heads nodding, so that's what you're, yeah. All right, nice job. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks.
Okay, next up, John Kennedy School update from Principal Brian Sutton and Mrs. Heather McCarthy.
All right, good evening, everyone. So update on John Kennedy. To open things off, just to ground us in what our mission and vision statements are, the Batavia City School District is committed to empowering students to achieve their maximum potential while becoming socially responsible citizens. And our vision is, in partnership with the Batavia community, will provide a safe and nurturing environment to develop students of high moral character who are able to successfully meet life's challenges. Our goals at John Kennedy this year and our vision and what we are trying to attain is directly aligned with our strategic plan. So throughout this presentation, you will note that the strategic plan is posted on each one of the slides with where it aligns to. As a reminder, our strategic plan for the Batavia City School District is a safe and orderly school environment, a collaborative culture, clear and accessible curriculum, and effective teaching in every classroom. We have 3 goals at John Kennedy this year. Our first one is to improve chronic absenteeism rate as evidenced by an improvement of attendance from the 2020 to 2021 and the 2021 to 2022 school years. The reason that we have multiple years on there is because of the COVID year in 2020 to 2021. That's not a fair analysis from last year's to see if we really improved or not. So we're looking at a couple years back so we can get true, accurate depiction of our improvement on attendance. Ms. McCarthy will take you through our chronic absenteeism goal.
So at JK, we are very focused on both proactive and, for lack of a better word, reactive for absenteeism. So I'll start with how we start every Tuesday morning, which is our weekly CAPS meeting. That's an opportunity for administration, counselors, school psychologists, and our school social worker to come together, sit at the table every Tuesday morning. It is a sacred time for us, uninterrupted, for at least an hour. And we go through every student's attendance. We get a weekly attendance report run, and it is up to date, so it's real-time data. It's who was absent, how many days they were absent in comparison to how many days we were at school that day. So we're always looking at the 10% threshold and 15% threshold. That's technically what chronically absent is. So again, we're looking at it weekly. We also look at trends. So for example, if we knew a certain class had COVID, a lot of students were out because of that, we might kind of differentiate our response or our action plan based on that. So the next thing we do is absolutely action plan. That might mean the counselors make a list of clothes that they're going to call. That might mean that the teachers themselves are making phone calls. That might mean the social worker or one of us or counselors doing a home visit. We're doing as much as we can to get the students into school who we know are absent the most. Phone calls are a really big part of this. Sometimes we'll end up sending an email, and we do make sure that everything is translated for students who speak other languages. From there, we also identify some proactive things that we can do. So, for example, we have an amazing SOAR program at JK. It is funded by a grant. Mr. Geiger, one of our PE teachers, oversees this. When making the list for students who would be attending SOAR, the first thing we did was look at the students who are those kind of high flyers or might show that they have some attendance concerns. Those names were given to Mr. Geiger, and those students were immediately then invited to join SOAR. After those students had ample opportunities to join SOAR, then it went out to the whole school. Again, we communicate with families very often. We're not just making phone calls saying, why isn't your child at school? We're trying to assess the barriers. We're trying to figure out how we can help. And that is really the theme of what those phone calls are and of what most of those home visits are. We also are starting a check-in, check-out program in January, February, where identified students will meet with specific adults in the faculty. We also have attendance improvements incentives, which has been new this year and very exciting. So for example, we have our JK family meeting, which is every other month on a Friday. We have one this week. And students who have shown that their attendance has improved, at the last one, that's who got the major shout outs, and they got coupons for different snacks, and they got time for Tilly with our therapy dog. So just little things to try to get the kids to really want to be at school. And then there's collaborating with outside agencies. So monthly we meet with Genesee Mental Health, and we go through the students on their caseload, and we compare absences as well. We also have our backpack program at school for food that's sent home, and then we have the primary project, which allows for play therapy right within our own school. So it's a very comprehensive approach, again, to be both proactive, getting the kids to school, but then also, okay, reactive, how can we help? We have MTSS up here too. Our multi-tiered systems of support is a big piece of what we do at JK, and that's where we really give students the help they need, so tiered interventions. And in every single meeting, which is pretty much every day we have an MTSS meeting, we're looking at how that student's doing academically, behaviorally, emotionally, but then also what their attendance is, because it really is all a comprehensive package. Right now, we have, as of December 1st, we had 19 students who are considered at that 25% mark, meaning they've already missed 25% or more of the school year. So those are our high flyers, our red flags that we're just always talking about and working with the families and the students. And then we had 82 students who were at the 10% mark for being chronically absent as of December 1st.
How is all this working? Are you seeing improvements yet?
Yeah, I mean, so last month we had 3 students who improved their attendance that we celebrated at the school family meeting by, it's a slow growth, right? Because if you think about it, if a student starts school after the first week, they have 4 absences. You need for them to be below chronically absent, which is 10%, we need 45 days of school, right? And so I couldn't put a percentage to it. However, we had 3 students that we celebrated at our last school family meeting because from the date that we shared with them, this is your goal, they had missed like 2 days. So like a 3-week span. It's definitely working. I mean, you know, short of going to a student's house, pulling them out of bed, dragging them to school, I believe that Ms. McCarthy has really led this in a strong way of we are doing everything we can to get kids to school and celebrating them when they're doing it, when they're putting that hard work in.
And what do you find is the biggest barrier for why children aren't coming to school?
It depends on families. I do believe,
It is
in
very
situations.
situational. So like of those 19 students that I had mentioned, It doesn't mean it's 19 different families necessarily, but it really is situational. I couldn't say a blanket statement of why. We're trying to find out though. That's something that our counselors do a really nice job of having those conversations. Sometimes it is transportation, they miss the bus, like there really are a lot of reasons. But I also think that with everything we're doing proactively this year, we're also trying to find out why, so that we can identify those patterns.
And then offer assistance in that realm, whatever they need.
So this was all connected to safe and orderly school environment, our first of our strategic plan.
Our second and third goals are surrounded ELA and math, which falls under clear accessible curriculum for our strategic plan. Goal 2 is improve student reading and writing performance by ensuring a clear and accessible ELA curriculum. We are targeting a 5% growth in our ELA New York State assessments for 3rd and 4th grade. And for 2nd grade, we're looking for 80% of our 2nd graders to increase their iReady diagnostic by at least 20% from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And so our focus on this, we're currently piloting 2 different curriculums. And with ELA, 2nd grade is piloting Wit and Wisdom curriculum, and 3rd and 4th grade is piloting a curriculum called Wonders. The hope of this is to really streamline our curriculum, have a clear and accessible curriculum that all teachers are aligned with and following. We meet with those pilot teachers. I meet with them almost weekly, informally but formally monthly, to see how the pilot is going and if it's something that as a district we want to move forward with or not. And one of the great positives of it is really that aligned, authentic, viable curriculum that really every school district needs, but we identified a need over the summer at John Kennedy for such a curriculum. We use our ELA win time to focus on student performance and really targeting struggling areas. So during our win time, students will go with their intervention teachers. We have a tiered intervention system. They'll go with their classroom teachers or another classroom teacher to work on a particular standard that the student is struggling with, or to practice their reading, become better writers, spellers, sight words. So all of that falls in that WIN ELA time where students get 35 minutes a day, real targeted instruction.
WIN stands for what I need, so
Yes,
it's
thank you.
thinking what the students need at that time.
Yeah.
She threw my question.
Do you feel like the iReady is the best diagnostic tool for them, as far as their assessment?
We don't use just iReady as a diagnostic tool. That is one diagnostic tool.
Just based on where, okay, those are the numbers you're basing off of, was like the 80.
For 2nd graders? Yes. It is what we have as a district. And so students have used it the previous year at Jackson. We use it as a benchmark as January assessment as well to see the difference from September to January, and then we use it again in May. So is it the best? It is what we have,
Right.
and it gives us a lot of information. So I will say it's very good in the fact that it helps us. You know, we're going to sit down in a month and look at all the students' performance in January, and really it breaks down the phonics piece, their phonemic awareness, their vocabulary, and so it really chunks where they're at or where they're falling short. So we do find it very useful for that. During the week, every Wednesday, we have during our What I Need time, we use eDoctrina, which is an online system for assessments, and we do practice state test questions. So we stop and have the students get exposed to what the state will be asking them in the end of the year. We decided to make this adjustment this year because I am not a huge fan of like test prep. It should be embedded throughout the year, preparing students for the state test. And the state test is our standard. New York State says this is what you need to show your performance. And so thinking about it from a coach's perspective, you want your students to be practicing regularly for the game. And so each week we have our students take eDoctrina sample questions that are aligned with what they're learning currently. And then at our data meetings with teachers, we go over with them how the students are performing, where they're showing some areas of strength and areas for opportunity and improvement. And so I figured I would let Jose here share how those indoctrinating questions go.
Hi, Jose. What are our EDOC weekly questions and why do we do them?
So we do the EDOC questions because for mind growth, the mind growth for math helps with writing, written questions, and also multiple choice. Reading helps with spelling questions, and because we do RAD.
But do you like doing them each week?
Yeah, it's actually really fun.
Do they challenge you?
A little, yes, especially the reading.
Yeah. And what do you do when they're difficult?
Be gritty.
It is challenging, right? And we do have students, and you're talking about end of 3rd grade and end of 4th grade content that we are asking them in September and October and November, and it's hard. And at JK, we have a slogan, it is be gritty, and we push them for that. And the students know why we're doing it. They know why we're practicing them. And after the first few weeks, they really embrace the struggle, you know, and teachers know when to call it quits on a student who's really struggling, because we do have plenty of students who aren't reading at grade level right now, but they embrace that productive struggle, and we have found that throughout the year so far, many more students have had this attitude of like, all right, might as well bring it on, right, like game day, so they get kind of pumped up for it.
Students who receive any sort of special education accommodations or modifications also do receive them during these Wednesday testing time.
So with our new pilot curriculum, and we have an instructional coach, Jen Sloan, who works with teachers, meets with them regularly, helps plan, helps assess student performance, sets up trainings with, we have Foundations is another curriculum that we're using. Jen sets up trainings for the teachers with that, and with the pilot curriculum she assists as well. She also supervises and organizes our Tilly time. So, as Heather mentioned, we have our therapy dog Tilly who comes to the school, and we have Tilly tickets that students bring down to the office. They earn Tilly tickets when in the classroom they have shown that they are reading independently and responding to their reading, as that is can have a huge impact on ultimately their comprehension and reading abilities. So every Thursday, Heather and I draw names, and those students get to go and read to Tilly and spend half an hour with Tilly every Thursday. Completely random. The only rule is you have to have a ticket in there, and your name gets drawn. We have not emptied the box, so students that earned them, a few weeks ago, they have that opportunity too, and it just is ongoing. And the box is, we will have to make a decision soon because the box is getting very full, which is awesome to see. In terms of school-wide things we do One Book, One School. We have a book bowl. So you'll see for math, we do Math Madness, where we have teachers and classes compete with math facts and move on. Our book bowl is students all vote on a book. During PE class, the PE teachers read to start the class, 2 books, and then after every class has gone through, they vote on which book they like best, and that book moves on. And we kind of celebrate that in our morning announcements, and then we will end it with us 2 reading the final 2 books and having it be serious competition for which ones the kids choose. The special area teachers all work together and collaborate. They got together over the summer and last year on how they can infuse ELA curriculum into their specials. If you ever walked into our gymnasium, you'd see our PE teachers having kids do sight words. They lay on the ground and spell words out with their feet as part of their warm-up to do sit-ups. It's like an ab workout. They do math facts during that time. The art teacher has students drawing sight words. For STEAM and library and art and music all collaborate together, and with the grade level teachers for what books the kids are reading and infuse them in. It's really awesome to see. And we have Catalina here is going to share with us what the intervention time is like for her.
All right, Kat. During when ELA or when you go to Mr. Tetzo?
Yes.
Why do you go to Mr. Tetzo?
Because I need to focus on my reading, and that's how you learn and get better.
Good. Do you like going there?
Yes.
Why?
Because it helps me focus and read a lot, and I'm getting better at reading.
Beautiful.
And it's fun.
And what do you do when it's hard?
I keep trying until I get it.
Thank you.
So again, a student who struggles with reading, knows she struggles, pushes through, and really just keeps working hard. And the last thing, every month at our grade level meetings, we have our teachers, Heather and I reviewed the performance from the teachers on last year's ELA state tests, and we have teachers present to their colleagues at each grade level meeting on standards that their students did well on last year. And so that building that collective efficacy amongst the staff and having them share with each other has proven tremendous, because during that what I need time, my students might go to Heather's class, and now Heather and I are teaching the same things, and they're hearing the same things. So we're really building up our teachers with what we would perceive as best practices, and what the data is showing is yielding the best results. All the teachers are getting together once a month to go over those strategies and the way they approach it. To share some of our state data, and I know Dr. Corey is going to go talk about this a little more after, so just a little snippet. Our grade 3 ELA scored 47% proficient, which means the 47% of our students scored a 3 or a 4 on the state test. You can get a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And the New York State average was 46%. So third grade, and a quick shout out to third grade teachers and the third grade students from last year, they scored above the state average on both ELA and math, and they're the only grade level in our district to do that. So super impressive there. Our fourth grade scored 31% proficient on the ELA test, and the state average was 42%. And the rankings, which Dr. Corey will go into more, but third grade was first out of 16 in similar school comparisons, and grade 4 was 5th out of 16 in similar school comparisons. And for both, grade 3 had 28% of students score level 2, which means that they could be right on the cusp of getting that 3 of proficiency, and grade 4 had 46% score level 2. So when I say my goal is a 5% increase for our New York State test, when it comes to grade 4 ELA, that is a bare minimum that I would expect, with having nearly half our students right on that cusp of getting a 2, and everything I just explained that we have going on individualized for students, that I can't see a way in which we don't really have a very strong performance this year.
So our third goal is similar to ELA, but for math. So improve student mathematical performance by ensuring a clear and accessible math curriculum, where 80% of second grade students will increase their performance in mathematics, as evidenced by an increase of at least 20% on the iReady Math Diagnostic. Third grade students will increase their performance in math, as evidenced by an increase of proficient scores on New York State math assessment from 51% to 56%. And fourth grade students will increase their math performance on the New York State math assessment, as evidenced by the rate of proficient scores going from 45% or 40% to 45%. So Brian already talked about a lot of the things we do to increase the ELA performance. Math mirrors that. So we have the monthly grade level meetings, we have the after school grade level meetings, the weekly practice with the New York State released questions for eDoctrina, use of win time again, but for math, and just a little glimpse at what that tiered intervention services looks like. So it's very clear we have strong tier 1 instruction, right? So that is what all of the teachers are doing in the classroom to everyone. Tier 2, we see that as the students who are maybe need a little bit extra boost, or a couple of extra reteachings in a specific standard or skill. And we have 2 math teachers who are dedicated to teaching that every day to those students. Then we have tier 3. Tier 3 is for the students who need a little bit more. So those students might be in smaller groups. They might be getting a little bit more foundational skills, but it is very, very data driven, and it is very, very strategic. We have a student here. A little bit about, I think, our math win time.
Yeah, so Vinny's going to talk about win, which is that what I need time teachers, he goes to a different teacher, and he also gets intervention as well. So he's going to touch on both those things.
Hi, Vinny. What do you do during math win and math intervention?
So in math win, we get there and we do like word problems of multiplication and division.
Good. And what about math intervention?
We get there and we do that quiz, and then after that quiz, we go on the Great Multiplication Challenge, and then we do some math problems, multiplication, and then we do the time test.
Good. And how did it go from the beginning of the year till now in math intervention? What have you worked on? What are the parts you
We
worked on?
worked on addition, subtracting, and multiplication.
And what do you think's coming next?
Division.
Good. And why do you go to Math Win, and why do you go to math intervention?
To get better at math.
So we also do some fun things for math. Over the summer, we had math mats installed. If you've been in JK recently, you may have seen them. They're right at the main intersection. So it allows students in the hallway, yes, they're allowed to jump and skip and talk out loud, but they're skip counting by 2s, 3s, 5s, and they're allowed to do this throughout the school day. So this happens during transitions, like going to the bathroom or the cafeteria or a different class, but also we have teachers who will bring their students out just to practice that. And that's for all grade levels, 2, 3, and 4. We also have movable mats that go into the classrooms. They've been used in PE and in the regular just classroom for action practice. We have our Math Madness that Mr. Sutton talked about earlier. And then this year for our extended day, we focused on second grade students who maybe needed some more tier 2 and tier 3 intervention. So they were identified using classroom observations and also using iReady. And so our morning program, it was before school because transportation was so tricky with busing. So we just did it before school, students who could get dropped off. And we had 4 teachers who were teaching very targeted math to second graders.
What's great with the math mats is, so we said to the students, you can skip, you can hop in the halls, and the teachers are like, we walk in the halls, and so it took some adjustment, but students would be jumping and skipping, and every time they were done, as I was standing, I'd say, what'd you just skip by? And often, in the beginning, they'd like look back at the mat and see, because they weren't really counting by anything, they were just skipping, taking advantage of that. And now they'll be hopping, and I'll go, what'd you count by? And they'll be like, 5s on the way out, or 3s, as before I came to ask them a question. So it's really neat to see, and honestly, it's like, students have no idea that they're practicing their math facts. They just enjoy skipping. And then if you ask them now, they can tell you what those mats are. Like Vinny had mentioned, students that go to math intervention time for our tier 2 do a thing called Great American Quiz each day, and it works on their fluency and their facts. Tons of facts practice. And so this is Carson, and I got behind him, he was in the zone, but this is him doing multiplication. Again, remember, these students all started with addition, and so now this is Carson doing his multiplication.
There's someone watching me. It's Mr. Sun.
Videoing. Get players, Mr. Sun. All right, guys, about a minute 30 left. If you're done, remember to close that phone book, grab a whiteboard marker, eraser, post-assessment day, Mr. Sutton.
Machines when it comes to their yeah, it's a time
like
thing.
flashcards.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's electronic flashcards, and what the teachers do is they have spreadsheets up on the board, and the students are up there, and they all try and they have a goal each week, so they try and beat it. It's 2 minutes, and I compete with them. I'll go in there, so my name's up on the board, so they try and beat me, and some of them do, like, by a lot. And others who are like around a certain number, I'll go in and have like a challenge with them, and it's amazing. You know, they'll go from like 80 correct to 96.
They're confident.
Trick me.
They're going through the roof. They're so proud of themselves. So for math, last year's New York State test, our grade 3 had 51% proficiency, so that's 51% of the students at 3s or 4s, and New York State was 48%. So we were first out of 16, and then for grade 4, 41% proficiency. New York State was 43 proficiency, 43%, so just a couple percentage points below. And for the similar school ranking, it was second out of 16.
And again, similar to ELA, we had 22% for grade 3 that had a level 2, and grade 4, 25% had a level 2. We didn't have these interventions in place last year with what we have this year. So those 25%, those 20% that get level twos are certainly going to go up. A big reason is our decision making is completely data driven. We don't make decisions based on how we're feeling about it or how we think things are going. We meet with teachers once a month. We have data meetings. They're one-to-one. So Ms. McCarthy and I meet with a teacher. We talk about their students' performance in eDoctrina. We talk about their already assessments. We talk about their module assessments, and we look at student sample work. And essentially what we talk about is what students are not reaching mastery of the standards they're working on, and then what is the plan for that student. And every teacher comes in, and honestly, the meetings really run themselves. The teachers do a phenomenal job knowing their kids, knowing what they need, and coming in with the action plan already made. And it shows, right? It shows when you talk to our students, it shows when you see what they're doing. Grade level meetings, we have grade level meetings during the day, which teachers do pacing checks. So for math and ELA, they have a year at a glance that they look at, and every teacher shares where they're at, and they stay in line with each other, so that way we can trade students during that win time, and you don't have teachers that are way ahead or way behind in that curriculum. Again, tying to viable curriculum and also effective teaching as well when we're looking at our strategic plan. Faculty meetings, we discuss best practices. Our faculty helped us design our goals. We went through the same process that the board did with the sticky notes in order to get there. And from these data meetings also creates our tiered approach. So we talk with teachers when they have concerns. One thing that Ms. McCarthy and I work with teachers on is when they say, I have a concern over Brian, he's not reading at grade level, we say, show us, right? Because we make decisions based on what the data is showing. So our students that are getting intervention, we have evidence as to why they need it, and then goals for them to eventually get out of it. One thing that we're really trying to push is that students don't enter intervention and stay in intervention, because that is very defeating as a student. Our shared decision-making team, we're doing a book study called Together We Decide, which so far has been very informing and really has kind of helped ground us in the fact that we are a team coming together and making decisions for that impact everyone. We're not making decisions for everyone, we're making decisions that impact the school. And so what we're doing right now is, again, same process with the sticky notes, and we are going through each of the strategic plan goals and coming up with an initiative for each one of them, and then deciding which one of those 4 initiatives we want to roll out as a team. So we are done with our attendance, and we're on to collaborative culture and instruction with our next meetings. So we will come out of our shared decision-making team actually tomorrow, or on Wednesday, excuse me, with what do we want to kind of roll out to the staff as good support on.
Social emotional learning is also a really big part of, I know, the district, but also at JK. The first Friday of every month, we have our Circle Up. These are peace circles, which are happening in every single classroom throughout the building. All teachers and staff are involved. They're partnered up with classes. It's an opportunity for everyone to talk about and learn about characteristics and values that represent the JK way. JK way is safe, responsible, and respectful. So we talk about I feel statements, gratitude, working hard, empathy, anything that can really help our students with their character traits and values. We also do some fun things that we try to focus on the students, like almost caught being good, or when they're really showing these types of values, or social emotional learning. So we had a Get Spotted challenge where we partnered with the Batavia Fire Department, and the students who were spotted being good, their names were drawn, and we had a couple students who got to ride in a fire truck. That was really fun. This month we're doing Caught Being Your Best Self. So if you are caught exhibiting one of the behaviors or values that our little elf on the shelf is telling us about every month or every week, if you're caught doing that, then you get a ticket, and again, it gets chosen, and you get to get something kind of fun as a prize. But we do more than just fun stuff like that. They're also focused on Thanksgiving food donation. You may have seen on Twitter, we drove around and delivered food to 12 or 15 families. And this was really spearheaded by our counseling department, who does such a wonderful job of it. And then we're also doing a toy drive, which we will be dropping off the toys to Golisano Children's Hospital tomorrow, but the students are the ones that understand now the importance of giving rather than always receiving. We have a sensory room now at JK, and this is for breaks when students need it. We know that, especially after COVID, a lot of students just need different sensory input in different ways, and so that room is perfect for them. We have a sign-out log. The students and the teachers know how to use it. It's not just a free-for-all. It is a very strategic placement and way of doing things. We have careers and candies. We do color run, mud run, gratitude walk. I don't know if anyone was at the gratitude walk right before Thanksgiving. It's phenomenal, put on by our amazing SEL committee. It's a committee of teachers who come together monthly to plan all of this cool stuff. And parents were invited in, and we were able to go to different stations around the school and engage in gratitude practices. It was really special for the kids and for the families as well. So just a little glimpse at all the really cool stuff we do to bolster students' social and emotional skills.
Yeah, it's a priority of ours to develop the whole child. And so we do push our students academically. We encourage them to be gritty. We give them tools to handle challenges. We do a positive affirmation of the day to set their mindset each day. And we also take great pride in the fact that we support students emotionally. We give them what they need, whether it be academically or emotionally. We give them breaks. We give them intrinsic motivation, or we push for intrinsic motivation. We give them extrinsic motivation. So our whole goal is to develop that whole child. And so we work very hard at that. However, we also want to thank all of you, because without your support, obviously, things would not be as easy. So we appreciate all that you do, and thank you for your support of John Kennedy.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you. Up next, Dr. Molly Corey for assessment update.
It's going to be a hard act to follow. I wrote my dissertation on data-driven instructional leadership, and I think they read it. Because they certainly are doing many things, not just with data around academics, but with other things to really work on developing the whole child. I think I can tell you 5% is going to be very easy, in my opinion, for them to accomplish in terms of growth, and I predict it will be much higher. And my presentation has just a few slides and to show you where we're at overall. It's kind of an unusual year because it's kind of what I would call a lame duck year. We're in the middle of transition. We have new standards out with new assessments coming, and we haven't had baseline information to really compare. So, you know, when the scores come out, we certainly want to use them, and they can inform what we do, and the schools have done a nice job with that. But we also want to balance it with other things we know coming off of COVID that are important to, you know, we have to be able to read kids and know where they're at, when you can push them to be gritty and when they need a sensory break. And balancing all of that is hard, but I think it's definitely achievable, and you heard about that. Focusing in on data, though, I think truly will help. You know, a good question came up in terms of, do we still use iReady? We have used iReady for a while, and the diagnostic, honestly, almost mirrors the state assessments in terms of data. We always watch that to see. There's two parts of iReady. The diagnostic is the information that gives us some assessment to help us see where we want to be going. The instructional piece is what kids would be assigned from the diagnostic. It's meant to be intuitive, to give kids exactly what they need. Kids told us they were kind of tired with that, and so we've made some decisions across the district on when to use that and when not to use that. So we're still sticking with the diagnostic 3 times a year, just because we think that it is good information. We can use it across the district, all grade levels, and you know, we're always looking to see what else is out there, but for right now, it's a pretty good one that kids don't mind taking 3 times a year, and they're actually proud of their progress if they see what's happening with that. When we look at our ELA scores, you can see this goes back to 2012-13. That was really when the core first came out. So this is really our last year of what would be considered a common core assessment. We'll be moving into the next generation, but it's kind of sandwiched around some odd years. Last year, it was only released questions. We didn't know that until we got to the day of the test. People who practiced really well, and we had some really high scores in some grade levels. The state told us not to use the information. We took it with a grain of salt with that. Before that, during COVID closure, there were no tests. That was the year, honestly, teachers were the saddest. We stumbled on to using Edectrina as a tool that was really exciting. And we had our first math camp that year. And teachers were so excited with what they saw with kids doing, and we had no tests to show us where we were with that. And you've heard a whole lot about gaps widening from closure. What I can tell you is that our data is at least informing us that we have some areas we have to really keep working on. Third grade was certainly strong. You know, they were much greater scores as a grade level than they were before COVID. Fourth grade, it's fallen down just a little bit, but I think that, you know, we'll change that. Our biggest worry, honestly, is fifth grade. Fifth grade's the year when they transition that sometimes it feels like they fall off the cliff. I really lobbied to have 2 coaches at middle school, and the priority for this year has been fifth grade. You're going to hear a little bit more about that later tonight, but I think that we're on the right trajectory, and it's a whole new team. I mean, the other piece of it with looking at these scores is the principals before COVID are all different than the principals we have now. And to see the leadership like you heard tonight, only great things will come from that. I think that we have success stories at each school to talk about in terms of why. This tells, you know, where the grade levels were at 3 through 8. What I like to do is go into a little bit further and talk about what does that mean? Where do we stand? In this, I was honestly panicking a little. The scores have been out for a while, but they didn't release anybody else's scores so that I could compare us. We've looked for years at what we call similar schools. Most of them are small cities, and a couple are similar size and demographics. When you look at the grade levels across that, you know, you heard about the success of third grade. They're number 1. And if you look at where their average is, honestly, it's a pretty significant lead for most of the others. So that's telling me, wow, they were really positioned in a very good place. And I would say that's credit to all the little things that we did along the way to keep them. And it's only going to get better. I can promise you that. Fourth grade, fifth, you can see the rankings. Fifth grade is one, again, our biggest concern for right now. We're working on it. And then 6th, 7th, and 8th had some really nice strengths. It was neat to see where we landed with this.
Molly, what's our thoughts on why it went so much in that 5th grade? I mean, from 18, 19, 2nd, all the way down to 11th. What would be the reasons?
Or one exact reason. I do think that kids, well, I can own that we've learned something about foundation reading skills, that we've made a change. And so the kids in these middle years that didn't have, especially during COVID, some of that strong instruction, that's a piece of it. I think we have to carefully look at the onboarding system of what 5th grade does as a teacher team. It's a whole new team this year, and I think they're looking at it a little bit differently than ever before. And you know, we're having the coaches really help and carefully watch and monitor things. They're going to be using Edectrina in a similar way to what John Kennedy is doing, just to know where are we at. They have iReady. We're going to look carefully along the way to see what's happening. No easy answers with it, but I promise we're looking at multiple data points for that one. It's important, I think, to also look at where does our rank as a district for ELA. Using those same districts that we compared everybody for, looking at the average. We were first right before, we were tied for first, and now we dropped to just second for right now. But I'd say with all the things that are happening, we'll easily hold that position, if not go back to being first. Moving along to math, you see that similar results. Third grade was really strong, was really right where they were before COVID. Fourth grade dipped a little bit. Fifth again, you see that's the biggest decline. 6th, 7th, and 8th, so shows some successes. You know, some are a little bit above. I don't think we're as bad off as many, and I think it's because we have comprehensive teams looking at multiple systems. We still have our work cut out for us. Our job isn't done by any means. When we look at our rankings for math, 3 through 8, you can see that there's some strengths, and there's 5th grade continues to show that pattern of needing a little bit more. I really am hopeful that the coaches working with new teaching teams, we made a corrective action with curriculum, specifically for ELA. I know this is math, but I'm bouncing back a little bit. The kids told us that they wanted to read more. If you've heard anything about the modules, you kind of stay in a module for almost a whole quarter. 5th grade in particular, you know, we had some parents and some students tell us they wanted to do something different. So when we looked at pilots this year, 5th grade was part of that, knowing that transition was tricky. Because it was new teachers coming in, they really wanted to start together with something new. They were ready for a change. We let them all go with the Wonders. So that'll be an interesting thing, because that one piece, since all of them are doing that change, it changes the text that they're using more frequently than what they were seeing with the modules. So I think that'll be an interesting piece. New teachers, new curriculum, they're really embracing things differently, and they have the coaches support with that. For our district average, we're first. And that was a proud statistic. You know, knowing that overall, we have some grade levels that have some challenges, but overall, we're still in a pretty good position. It's improved from before the pandemic, you know, from where we were tied, but we're holding it ourselves now. And we've got math camp still going. Last summer, we brought it back. EMS is the owner of math camp. And kids who come to summer school, that's what they do. It's meant to change their mindset about math. And if we can use that with some data-driven instruction, I think, you know, they'll easily be able to see the things that they can do to support what kids need to show that they're ready to perform on tests. In conclusion, you know, our district rankings show us that we have strong areas for both ELA and math. Grade 3 was positive, they were first in both areas. We had other positions in first place, 36 and 8th, and math takes first or second in 4 out of our 6th grade levels. So with our coaches, we want to really attend to what's happening in that 5th grade dip. And I think that as the year goes on, we'll have more answers to that. And then for 7th and 8th, we're always looking for ways to motivate them. They're the kids who tell us, we know this doesn't matter. And it does matter. And we try to show them that. They actually have the test booklets from the written problems, and I'm encouraging teachers to use those so that kids could look back and reflect what were they doing on those, and let them own it. Like, it's nice for schools to have goals. It's even nicer when kids have math goals. And I think we'll get there with that. You know, we have a lot of things going. The strategic plan is the anchor that's going to carry us through the next 5 years. It's slow and steady that we'll win the race. It's not making a knee-jerk reaction and just, you know, changing everything all at once. There's a time and a place for change, and I like the principals to own what's happening with it. The instructional leadership team is really working to build our capacity with being masters of lesson plans and each element of that. We're having really good discourse around what does that mean? What does this look like and why? And our leadership team is doing the same thing. You know, it's important for us to anchor in on, so that we can give really good feedback to teachers when we're seeing them. And the reality is you have to have multiple measures. There's never one thing that's going to tell us what we have to do. It's looking at the whole picture. We have some predictive analytics tools that are helping us with that, and I'll show you that in one of my next updates. What questions might you have?
Well, it appears here that in the statistics you gave us that with the John Kennedy presentation, that the 3rd and 4th graders this year are probably going to do terrific in their testing. But the majority of the statistics you gave are 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Is that school doing the same kind of work as, let's say, John Kennedy is, trying to get kids, involved and responsible?
I think they have some things in place. I'll be honest, I really want to use John Kennedy as the role model for what we want from a building plan. I want to make sure that we have robust goals for many areas. Middle school is tricky. You're only with kids for 42 minutes. That's one of our biggest hurdles. In 42 minutes, can you get everything that you need to do in the lessons to ensure that you have a data point to know what to do next? I mean, I don't think it would be a secret for me to say there is going to be a scheduling committee coming together to talk about some things. I think that they have to look at lots of areas about what they want to do. When you look at the teachers at middle school, the core teachers are really just part of the school. There's a lot of others that could help lift it. The way you've seen the special area teachers come together at John Kennedy is impressive. Walk into a gymnasium and see them doing things related to reading and for math. We need all schools to do that. And I know that everybody's willing, is just, do you have that plan that's forging ahead and moving it in the same way? We didn't ask schools to write 3 goals. We were kind of starting slow in the year. They got their teams together in like August and September. We asked them to start with 1. We get your feet wet, learn this process, learn how to work together as a team. And I would say that there's a really good person who's data-driven, who wants to have goals in all areas, and he pulled it together. We will use that to build with all of the leadership teams so that moving forward, as we continue, the strategic plan's not changing. We know what our goals are for a while. We'll anchor in and we'll get better at it and use the conversation around what we're seeing in one school to help shape other schools. It's a lot easier when you have kids all day in your classroom to do some clever things. That how they carve out their time and what they do with it is a little bit easier to do in a self-contained elementary classroom.
So when you mentioned some of the scheduling things, can we look at, because middle school is kind of divided, right, with 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th, our house is there some things we can incorporate what Brian is doing at JK into that house, that 5th, 6th?
So the coaches I meet with them weekly, and they've gone to visit John Kennedy. They've gone to see things. We talk about eDoctrina data every week at a meeting, and they're on it. They're working on inputting things and using that same model. We know it works. There's a teacher sitting in the back who's very humble looking at the scores. He was one of the first persons who started using eDoctrina with his students. In the year that he did it, I was like so excited because I knew what he was doing, and I can't remember what the overall passing rate was. It was in the 40s, like 42%. He had a 67% passing. Just couldn't see it in the whole district average, but we know. So now with all teachers intentionally doing the same thing, it's going to be just amazing, and that will feed teachers who will be like, whoa, how did they do that? And we'll be able to share, this is how they did it. And the therapy dog is at the middle school. They're working on a system to have the same kind of rewards. It's just harder. It's a much larger organization, but they have a team that's committed to doing the work, and slow and steady, I promise we'll get them there.
I don't know if you'd even know the answer to this, but has it always been kind of the tradition, the transitional year? Has it always been significantly lower? So before 5th grade was there, was the 6th grader, were their scores statistically lower, or is this just a new trend? Is this?
So I don't have data going back before 2012.
Okay.
I would have to really look in the archives for that. What I can tell you is I have looked at other schools, and where there is transition is where you see the dip.
Okay.
So whether it's 5th grade or 6th grade or sometimes 7th grade, you do generally see a dip. And I think, we're going to have some challenges with that.
Well, it also appears to me that Mr. Sutton and Mrs. McCarthy, that they are very tuned into what's needed for each student. And knowing how difficult we know middle school is that a philosophy that you intend to help those teachers and that staff also take into account that might be best for their students too?
Oh, certainly. And I can say that we see that as a strength with Mr. Cornelius. He's in the lunchroom every day. He gets to know the kids, and when they talk about chronically absent kids, he knows who's having a bad day and what's going on. So, I'd say that they're there. It's not gonna be one tweak.
Oh, no.
It's gonna be that slow and steady. They're getting the pulse of what's happening, and I think they've got to get the kids to own it a little. At middle school, very tricky, and sometimes the kids don't care. One of my favorite stories that I always go back to is I watched a student in an observation literally do nothing the whole time I was there. Teacher was really, really working hard, helping lots of kids, and I was furious. Does he know who I am? And he knows I was watching him. And as I talked to them, I finally once stood next to him and I said, your teacher asked you to do something. And I said, you're not doing that. Why not? And he looks at me and I said, I'm not going to leave until you answer me. And he's like, just wait. And he knew. He knew. If you played the waiting game, time would run out and he wouldn't have to do it. And I think there's enough tricky kids that you could probably, that they know the game a little bit, and we've got to hook them in a very different way. And we're talking about things that we can do with that. I think if we could build some choice into the schedule so that some of the electives that they choose to do right now, there's no choice. They're given a schedule, this is what you have to do. And by 7th and 8th grade, they know what they want to do, they know what they like, they know what they don't like. They'll tell us. And I think that if we can build choice into that, over time, it'll really help things. And getting them to want to have better scores. Little kids, they love to reach high. They'll do anything. And I think we just have to capture that with bigger kids.
Do you think do we have newer staffing at the middle school compared to some of our other buildings?
It has been the building that has had a lot of hires last year.
And we got you mentioned that the increase to the 2 coaches for that, perfect. So that should help get the newer.
It'll help, yep. And I can say some of the hires though are great. Last year's 6th grade ELA, 2 brand new teachers, and they rocked it. And one of them, she emailed me this summer asking for certain data reports. She knew about data-driven instruction, so you could see it in the scores. They skyrocketed, and I think that as we share things like that with other teams, they'll get better.
I think that's a big contribution to Brian and Mrs. McCarthy's staff, is that I think you have a staff that's been there, that the kids know the longevity.
We've had a bit of turnover as well.
Okay.
Over the last 2 years, yeah.
All schools have, COVID's been really hard. There's been people who've left, so if they were closer to Buffalo or Rochester, there's been opportunities in some cases. And we've had people, I think Tricia could probably attest to it, now more than ever, leave just because they're, no real reason. This summer, people left the state, I'd never heard of people leaving the state, and there's a lot of reasons.
So what is these numbers, like that 5th grade class, that number is very concerning. So what is happening now? Do you have this data? I know you can't specifically say, but the report that they just did was phenomenal. I would love to hear more, these kids are gonna get lost. They're 6th grade.
Well, we won't let them get lost, I promise you that. The coaches are in the classrooms, they're really attending to things. We listen, and we talk to the kids. Our pulse is, we're very aware of what's going on, and we're working.
So one of the pieces you had tonight to approve was a transfer, a teacher by the name of Allison Dunn, through the grant that we received, MTSS, which is basically giving kids more supports. She will be overseeing some of those supports at the middle school, and Molly and I are working with her and through her to kind of coordinate that. So that that position is being paid for via a grant and MTSS, multi-tier systems of support. Basically, giving kids the services they need, and she's going to have the time and the resources to help us coordinate that at the middle school. So to answer your question directly, that's one thing that we're doing differently right now.
We have multiple data points at every grade level that are helping us make decisions and really work with kids so they know where they're at and what they need to be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, up next is our reports, and first up is Superintendent Smith.
Yeah, just a few items I want to recognize. As you heard Jane say, she went to all the winter concerts this year, as did I. They were all very good, from John Kennedy all the way through the high school. We had a fantastic group of students singing and performing and playing with a nice receptive audience as well. We also had the drama club do the production of Robin Hood, which was very well done and very funny, I might add as well. I laughed out loud quite a few times at the lines and the acting, so that was very well done. Winter sports are well underway. Basketball season is underway. Hockey, indoor track, and wrestling is well underway. You heard Molly talk about learning goals. So for the focus for December and January for our district-wide is on learning targets. That's essentially what we tell the students that they're going to be learning that day. And as an administrative team, district-wide, we are focusing on learning targets, giving our teachers more training, more skills-based training. I'm looking at learning targets. The most important thing with the learning target, honestly, is to share it with the kids and then come back to it at the end of the lesson. So we're, beginning that process here as we speak. I'm looking for, if there's anybody else interested, I sent out an email. We're looking for 1 or 2 more strategic plan representation from the board. Allison has already volunteered. There's going to be a district meeting at the end of January. We're going to bring all 4 of the shared decision-making teams together as a group, talk about the plan. If there are any more board interest in serving on that, we do have room for 2 more people. Allison, like I said, has already volunteered, so that's coming up at the end of January. Brittany also emailed you with the legislative breakfast on January 21st. Please let us know if you can attend that. That is in York this year. I believe all of our legislative representatives have been invited. There are going to be breakout sessions, and all districts from Genesee Valley BOCES will be present there as well. So if you're interested in going to that, let us know. We also have received 2 grants recently. We received a suicide prevention grant coordinated by Julia Rogers. That was in the paper last week. And under Molly's leadership, we received, we're in the process of receiving a UPK expansion grant as well. And I want to make a final comment here on Brendan Briggs, who has stepped down from coaching varsity football. I'm just going to share the comments that I shared with the local media source last week. Brendan Briggs, his program, coaching staff, and student athletes under his leadership have taken great pride in representing all of us at BCSD. And of course, all the wins and titles weren't too bad either. On and off the field, Brendan demonstrated a strong commitment, a second to none work ethic, and a passion for all that is Batavia. As a fellow BHS grad like Brendan, I know the pride that existed in Blue Devil football when I was a student here, and over his successful coaching tenure, Brendan has reinstilled that great pride and tradition for all of us. He is a class act all around, a humble and confident leader, and I congratulate him on all his successes. His wife and children are certainly more deserving of having their husband and father home more in their lives, and I wish them great happiness. On behalf of all of BCSD and all of you, we are grateful for the incredibly positive impact of Brendan Briggs. So feel free to make any comments on that if you'd like, but that's my report.
Okay. All I can say is Coach Briggs will be missed. He was a great man, great coach, and I'm glad we're still going to have him as a phys ed teacher. So.
And a hockey coach.
And a hockey coach, yes. Next up is our student ex officios report, and I know Julia is out there. But we don't have anything. Okay. So next up is our agenda alterations, if there are any. I don't believe there are any. Next up is consent items. Can I have a motion to accept the consent items?
So moved.
We'll say Mr. Regal first. A second?
Second.
Mrs. Bentley?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right, next up is old business. Could I have a motion to accept old business?
So moved.
Ms. Bowman, second?
for old business. Who's the second?
I did not hear a second. Mr. Roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now for new business, I'm sorry. A, resolution to add Director of Facilities 3 position. Are there any questions on that? No? Okay. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Riegel, second.
Second.
Ms. Lembe?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
B, resolution SEQRA Type 2 action, replacement and repair of public address clock system at the Batavia High School and entry and classroom door hardware at Robert Morris. Are there any questions on that? None. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
We'll go Ms. Lenve first. Mr. Roll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
C, resolution, authorization and approval of the transfer of up to $244,000 from the district's repair reserve fund to the district's general fund to pay for replacement and repair of the public address / clock system at Batavia High School and entry and classroom door hardware at Robert Morris and award of contracts related thereto. Any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Mr. Riegel?
Second.
Mrs. Benedict?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
D, renew the Genesee County Chamber of Commerce membership, $185. Any questions? If none, can I have a motion, please? Mrs. Bowman, second? Mrs. Anderson?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, other reports and discussion, board governance handbook.
So last month or so, Alison and I and Jennifer met to review the draft board governance handbook that John and I learned about at a recent training. So you have on there a draft version of the changes that Alison and Jennifer and I made. Looking forward to any comments on that. If there aren't any, we can go ahead and move it towards old business next time to vote. But I want to thank Alison and Jen for their work on that. This will be primarily used for new board members, current board members. I share it with the leadership team as well. So any questions or comments? Alison or Jennifer, anything to add specifically? Okay. Okay, so now we'll move that for a vote for next time.
For next time? Okay. Thanks, ladies. Appreciate you guys doing that. B, district administrative reports, Dr. Corey, Ms. Bingham, and Mr. Rosansky, we all have that in our packets. Now we are going on to call for executive session.
Can I just say one
Yes,
thing?
sorry.
That's all right. I attend the Genesee Valley School Board Association meetings whenever they occur. And generally, it's supposed to be the president of the board, but because of whatever reason, they opened it up to representatives, so I'm glad to do it. And I just had a couple things that I wanted to report to you about it, just really quickly. That the Genesee Valley School Board administrator, who happens to be Mr. Burke, wanted to say that he generally wanted more members and school board presidents to participate in the Genesee Valley School Board offerings. That was one of the things. There was a discussion about electric buses, and the whole group felt that we wouldn't be pushed into using electric buses. I know that has nothing to do with us, has to do with our busing service, but many of them have buses that they're going to have to replace by 2035. And so there was a big discussion about that. And the Genesee Valley Schools book will be printed in the spring, and the superintendent will get information about that. Will be included in Batavia, will be in that. And the Excellence in Student Service Award applications are coming out. And the only question that I had, and you sort of mentioned it, Jason, was about policy. that was a recommendation that we do some general review of our policy manual because some of the other schools were finding some very outdated policies.
So we are doing an entire comprehensive review of that as we speak. So,
Okay, that was just a
Yes.
suggestion
Yeah.
made by them.
Yep.
And so,
that process is well underway. That's why the policy committee, we've asked them to not get any new policies. Once we get board docs up and running, that's step one. And step two, we're going to link all of our policies to that, and we're having a complete policy review done through Erie One.
great,
Because we do have some outdated policies, so we're going to go back and look at all of them.
great. That's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. All right, so now, call for executive session, and executive session is for negotiations and for personnel. So could I have a motion to go into executive session, please? Mrs. Benedict first, Mr. Roll would be a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're now in executive.
Will we be returning?
We will not be returning.
Yeah.